The next thing I want to talk about is like community and stuff. I watched in the wake of particularly the US elections. I watched a lot of analysis videos and what can we do videos, and much of that ends up being like general leftist organizing, but it's also worth watching it from, what the liberals are saying and what the Democrats are saying, and just to see what everyone has to say and see who's positive and who's negative and who might have some good ideas. And a lot of people, particularly the further left you go, say things like, we need to organize and we need communities. And they're like, okay, I trust this person saying that's probably good. Maybe they can sound like, some people are like, here's an example where community saved the day, and here's an example of a company that's actually a cooperative. And you're like, okay, but I don't really know what organizing is. I don't really know what community, like, what does that mean? I'm not an expert on this, and you'd probably be better off reading a book on it. And I can't even recommend you a book. I'm just not an expert. Well, I can tell you what I've gathered from talking to trans people for the last decade and about trans rights, and what I think is our strengths and what I think we can do more of going forwards, and why it's important. So trans people as a group or as a category or as a concept have existed for a long time, like, hundreds of years. The thing that is causing transness likely has existed as long as humans and probably before. But as like a political group, we haven't existed for very long at all. Like, we had this famous article, like the transgender tipping point, which was like 15 years ago or something now. And how everyone's talking about increased trans visibility, and obviously this is where the anti-trans movement has come from. Is it's like a backlash to us being visible, but it's a backlash to us being a political group. And I mean, before the internet, how did trans people as a group do anything politically? I mean, it was too dangerous for most people to be openly trans, and there's so few of us that unless you live in a big city with like an LGBT bar or organization, you likely never meet another trans person other than at the gender clinics. And the gender clinics are trash, and you don't really want to be there, and you might not even be able to get to one. And so, we didn't have a community. We didn't have a political group. There's obviously a lot of history with the wider LGBT movement, and that's been going on since way before the internet, for sure. And there have been groups and stuff, but not on like a wide scale. Now with social media, and the internet and blogs and stuff, you're able to talk to hundreds. I've talked to thousands of trans people in my life, and not just at Pride and stuff where you meet up with them, but online. I've got loads of friends. I can see some of you in the chat that I recognize, quite a few of your names. I've never met you. You've never met me. But we don't just talk and hang out and know bits about each other's lives. But, I've got people who I know who really know about the UK law. I know people who really know about, medical stuff. I know people who really know about what to do if this is happening. And I can go and talk to them, and they can talk to me and ask me things that I know about, and we can all talk, and that's how we share information. And that is like the first step of community and organization, is talking to each other. I mean, trans Twitter was genuinely a really good resource. Like, Twitter's always been horrible. Even when it was good, it was bad. Because, it's a bit of a toxic kind of thing in general. But it was still great. I mean, that's where I learned about everything with transition. Like, that's how I learned how to medically transition, and where to get information about surgery, and like political positions and moral positions, and where I worked out a lot of my views. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of you, and a lot of you probably come from Reddit and from YouTube chats, and this kind of stuff is where people, when they first are coming out to themselves, start learning about trans rights and trans people. and then you stay there and you carry on talking to people and you help the others behind you. And we organize as a political bloc, and that means that when something is happening, we can all do something together. Not in perfect unison, because we're not like ants. That would be amazing. But also because we're all just random people. Like, there's a lot of you that probably would have nothing in common with me if we weren't both trans people or LGBT people or interested in feminism and LGBT rights. If we already had equality, we might not even be aware of each other, and that's fine. But it's good that, you know, we found each other and we can all work together and generally head in the same direction. So I think that another thing that I want to focus on going forwards is building a community, and not like building the Katie Montgomery community, hashtag like and subscribe, you know, buy my t-shirt, go on Patreon or whatever. I don't have a t-shirt. I don't have a Patreon. You can like and subscribe if you like. But that's not the kind of community I'm interested in building. It's more, this is a place where we can fight together for LGBT rights and feminism and skepticism. Because all of these things are linked in my mind, and just factually. And we can connect with the wider trans community, and not everyone here is going to agree with me on everything. There are lots of high-profile trans activists that I don't agree with on a lot of things. That's fine. I just think if we're generally pointing in the same direction, when something comes up that you know about or you're good at, that would be great. You know, it'd be great if you can contribute to that. I get so many people messaging me and talking to me saying, like, Katie, I really want to help. I have time, I have money, I have the energy. What can I do? I'm like, hey, I don't know. Like, what am I doing? I'm just fucking arguing with idiots on Twitter. By the way, in case you're watching this back in like 2 days, you're like, she keeps saying Twitter. Twitter's been dead for like years. Is this a recent video? Yes, I'm not going to call it X. Fuck off. It's Twitter and it's dead. And I don't go on Twitter anymore either. But it's, when I say Twitter, I mean public social media apps in general. Like, I say go on Blue Sky because that's where the trans community seems to be reconnecting and reorganizing, and that's kind of where we need to go. In fact, let's do that first. Let's talk about this. I'm going to give you another example of organizing in a minute, but here we are. This is Blue Sky. This is my Blue Sky profile. Ta-da! It looks exactly like Twitter from like 4 years ago, and it basically is like Twitter from 4 years ago. Oh, have I got the wrong setting? Yeah. Okay, that's better. The chat is back. So Blue Sky is basically Twitter. I'm not sponsored by Blue Sky. I'm not sponsored by anyone. Blue Sky is still probably bullshit. It's just like Twitter from 2014 or something. Like, there's transphobes here. There's racists here. You still could write something and get cancelled for some misunderstanding. Yeah, it's all of those things. But it's not like Twitter in 2024. It's like Twitter in 2014. There's a bunch of left-wing people here. You can have a conversation without someone posting a picture of a lynching video underneath you. There aren't people with, Nazi imagery in their profiles getting a 1.8 million likes. It doesn't. The algorithm doesn't promote people who pay to be seen. It's just a bit more basic, and for now, it's decent. So I think if you're interested in having a conversation, YouTube is still fine-ish enough. Blue Sky is still fine-ish enough. Like, I'm sure the Reddit's all right. I don't really go on Reddit. But some of them, like, obviously Truth Social, Gab, like Twitter or X or whatever, they're all just right-wing hellholes. Full transphobes just completely have, X even bans you from saying the word cis. Like, there's just no freedom of speech on any of those platforms. You're not allowed to have your ideas. You can't go 5 seconds without being abused. It's just not worth being there. But these platforms are still useful. Like, we can all complain about how Blue Sky hasn't banned Jesse Single yet. They probably won't ever. Probably in 10 years' time, Blue Sky will be a fascist hellhole, because that seems to be what happens to all internet apps. But that doesn't mean you should give up on this kind of stuff entirely. That doesn't mean you should give up on all social media entirely. It doesn't mean we should be really angry about it and just not do it, because this stuff is still useful. Yeah, I can see loads of people say, yeah, Facebook is cringe. Yeah, Reddit is a shithole. Yeah, Blue Sky is barely livable. I haven't been called a groomer once on Blue Sky, so for all its failings, it's still better than Twitter. Yeah, that's true. Neither have I. I've had some of the Twitter classics. I've not had a dick pic yet. I don't think you can be sent pictures on DMs. That's probably why. I've had sugar daddies. I've had scammers. I've had the people who just say hi as if that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I still think these things are important for making community. And if you don't like Twitter, for some reason, I'm addicted to this kind of thing. I just like talking to people and everyone being on the same footing, which is what was good about Twitter in the first place, and which is what now is bad about it. Blue Skies, like that. But if you don't like that kind of thing, maybe some of the other websites are better. Maybe Discord's better for you. Maybe, there's loads of stuff, but just find the ones that work for you. YouTube chat. Come and write something in the YouTube chat. Or Twitch chat. They're not. I'm again apologize that Twitch isn't working yet. I'll get it working for next time. Yeah, these things are important. So this is an example. Sign up to this. Sign up to something. Get involved some way. Just talk to trans people. You might be like, oh, but what? How do I organize about trans rights? You don't need to. Just talk to trans people, and it'll start happening naturally. And this is one thing I wanted to talk about as an example. So let me just get up a thing. So this is an email from The Trans Agenda by Lee Hurley. So, full disclaimer, I've known Lee via Twitter for a while, and we've interacted a bit. I'm kind of guilty of being a bit over-liberal with the word friend. I would say Lee's my friend, but maybe he wouldn't say the same thing for me. I don't know much about him at all. We've never met in real life. We've never talked on the phone. We've interacted on Twitter in a political sense and probably some jokes, and that's it. I'm sure I wouldn't be invited to his wedding. I don't know if he's already married. I don't know what his sexuality is. I don't know much about him at all, and we're certainly not sponsored by him, and he is... Well, I was going to say he's not sponsored by me, but I do donate to his Substack. One of them. I don't know, something. But that's just because I think the service is good and I want to support it. This is an example of what I want to get across in general to people, what we can do. Okay? So, Lee is just, as I'm sorry for saying this, Lee, a normal person. It's not like some billionaire or, owner of some huge company, or, well, he might be a super genius, I don't know, but he's just a normal guy. And one of the things he is apparently good at is reading the news and summarizing it. So here he goes. This is, and I'm sorry for just directly sharing his thing. You should definitely subscribe to this. So it goes out, might as well just do his advertising for him. Goes out early for subscribers, but it's free. So you can just sign up to this. It's on Substack. I think it's got it here somewhere. I don't know. LeeHurleySubstack.com. Yes, okay. So you should go sign up to this because it's useful news. But what this is it's just a service where he just reads all of the news and then finds all the stuff about trans people and then writes it down in a non-bullshit way. So, for example, this news story. Trans teens begged Wed Streeting not to ban puberty blockers week before. From the Metro, you can read the original article here, and he's got a little summary here explaining what's going on. But basically all the anti-trans and pro-trans stuff in the last week. Just information, and it's just written in a way that isn't pointlessly inflammatory or misgendering people or you know, that kind of stuff. Just realistic and factual. This is what the newspapers are saying. And you might be like, okay, so what? Like, ChatGPT could do this for me. It's literally just some person reading the news and writing it down. Yes, but this is a valuable resource for me. Like, I learned about some of this stuff. There's this, I mean, like, some of these things would never reach outrage Twitter. Councillor quits Labour over puberty drugs ban. Exeter, oh God, I can't read. Exeter councillor Zoe Hughes has left Labour, criticising its indefinite ban on puberty blockers for under 18s, calling it harmful to the transgender community. That's like a bit of news. If the gender critical person quit, it'd probably be on the front page of the Times and we'd all have to talk about it. But then when this isn't good news, but this is positive. This is someone standing up for trans people, making a scene about Labour. You could go and write an article about this. Maybe you could go and, if you're a journalist, you could go and talk to, or want to be a journalist, or someone with a blog. You could go and find Zoe and try and have an interview with her. Maybe you wrote a YouTube channel. I personally wouldn't have known about this. And maybe you were like, Katie, you're a fucking loser. Everyone knows about this. I feel like my finger's on the button with a lot of these things. I didn't know about this one. I knew about all of the anti-trans ones, but not always about some of the pro-trans ones or neutral ones or not Times front page stuff. This is a useful resource. This comes out. This not only can this educate you vaguely what's going on in the world. It might be something that you really know about and you're like, oh, I can contribute to this. I can write an article about this. I can do a YouTube video about this. And the point is, I'm not just like super bigging up the trans agenda by Lee or super bigging up Lee. Lee's great. The trans agenda is great. But the point is this is just a thing that Lee is good at and he does. Maybe there are things that you're good at that you can do and that would benefit us. This is like a resource for the trans community. And it's not like the golden resource, it's not the only resource. And in fact, if your skill is, like Lee's, reading the news and writing it down, there's no reason why the transgender has to be the only one. Maybe you don't like his summaries. Maybe you can speak French and you can do it in another language. Maybe you've got a more chatty style that appeals to people of your demographic or whatever, you know, if you're 17 or something. Like, what I'm trying to say is this is just a thing he is good at and he can do and he does it, and it's now good for all of us. And what we need to do is support this by, if it's interesting to you, subscribe to it. If you have the money, support him to do it financially, which is great. Share it with other people. This is one of the resources we have. Become aware of it. But also, you can do that with the things you already know about, but you can do that with the things you're good at. You might think like, oh, I'm not good at anything. And I said to Lee before this, like, can I talk about this? And I don't want to just say, you're just some person who writes down the news, because that kind of dismisses it. And he was like, that is basically what I do. Maybe you're someone and you're like, oh, you know, what the hell am I good at? All I'm good at is like drawing like cartoon pictures, or all I'm good at is writing music, or that's useful. Like, I'm shit at drawing cartoons, and I draw like some political cartoons, and they get thousands of views, and people say they find them really useful. Maybe that's what you're good at. Maybe all you're good at is painting Warhammer, but maybe you have like a way you could paint some trans thing, or you could talk to other trans players of the game, or I don't know why I keep talking about Warhammer. I saw it in the chat a few times. But there might be some skills you have. And some of them, like one of my skills is I'm good at talking. I've been monologuing for like a whole hour already, and like halfway through the topics I want to talk about. I'm good at talking. I'm good at arguing with people. I'm good at talking to people who are trying to intimidate me and not being intimidated by them. I'm good at pinging off insults and not being affected by them. And so that's what I do. And you might be like, oh yeah, but I don't want to be in the public eye. Great. Do you know what I'm really bad at? Behind the scenes stuff, where you like, you know, talk to someone one-on-one and, you know, communicate some idea with them, or talking to politicians in a way that isn't abrasive. Or I'm not very good at reading scientific papers and translating them into things that everyday people would understand. I'm not good at finding scientific papers. I'm not good at... There's loads of stuff I'm not good at, so I just don't do it. And I kind of feel like, oh, I need to do all these things because, people are watching my show and I need to experience... Maybe someone else is out there thinking, oh, I'm really good at reading scientific papers and communicating them in a way that other people could understand. But I don't want to be on YouTube. I don't want to be in a public eye. I don't want people knowing my name. Well, that's amazing. Start an anonymous blog or something. Write it down somewhere. Send it to me. Send it to all the other big trans activists. Get in some Discords. Get in some YouTube chats. Make a Blue Sky. And do what you're good at. And contribute. Literally, whatever it is you're good at, you're going to think, oh yeah, but it's rubbish. No one needs this. I'm not very good at it anyway. Shut up. Yes, we do need it. And yes, you're good at it. And even if you're mediocre at it, okay, maybe your exact same skill is what I do, or what Lee does, or what someone else is already doing. So, maybe you're exactly the same as me, but 10% worse. Some people don't like me. So, I'm annoying. Some people are going to find you first. Some people are going to want to hear it from more than one person's point of view, and they'll hear mine and they'll hear yours. And even if they're similar and they're informed by each other, this is creating a community. These are important. This is what we need to do to create some positive movement, some positive momentum, and help each other out and all share things with each other. Something that I've said for a long time is anything I do in the name of trans rights is free for you to steal. If you see me making an argument and you want to say it on your show or say it to your friends at the pub or write it on a t-shirt or paint it on a Warhammer model, whatever you want to do with it, just fucking do it. You don't need to credit me. If you see one of my shitty cartoons, actually I should bring that up because you might be like, what the hell is she talking about cartoons? So I have a political cartoons account called Katie's Shit Cartoons. It was on Twitter. It's now on Blue Sky. And I draw these absolutely abysmal stick men that try and communicate an idea. So here we have a trans person saying, you want to remove rights I have today. And then the gender critical says, hyperbolic as always. No one wants that. I'm sure everyone's had this little interaction. They this. By the way, all of these are based on a real event. I actually had this actual conversation. Not quite they posted through my door, but it's someone posting it on their timeline. So then they say, the flyer you just posted through my door says, our political party will remove trans people's rights. And they're seems sensible to me. Why do they fucking do this? Anyway, this is what I'm trying to communicate with these cartoons. I'm fucking shit at this. If you see this exact cartoon, you're like, wow, that's a good idea. Oh, but I don't know if I want to do the same thing because I don't want to steal from Katie and she might be upset and I don't... Fucking steal it from me. I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone else, but I think a lot of trans activists would generally be happy if you take their ideas and build on it, share them, rewrite it. If you're a good artist, but you're shit at ideas and not good at politics, just steal all my cartoons and draw them well. Even if you do that and you make money off it, that's great. That's cool. What I care about is us having rights and having a future. That's what I'm involved in this for. So, we don't really want to support these kind of activist leech types that you do see sometimes, but I don't think we really get many of those in the trans community. I think we're all too desperate for that kind of situation. You start getting these grifter types in when activist stuff starts actually making real progress. But you've always got to be on the lookout for grifters, but you're not one if you're worrying about it. And I'm sure you've got a skill you can help us with, and just start doing it and tell people about it. Katie's good cartoons when I get better at drawing. I'm actually not bad at drawing, but sometimes you just want to fire out an idea, and I don't have a special tablet-y pen thing that you can do good drawings with, and so I just use Microsoft Paint, the classic one, not the new shit Windows 11 one, and I just draw these things because it's a good way of communicating an idea. I think sometimes the simpler cartoons are the best ones. yeah, so if you want something you can do, if you want to go away from this stream feeling positive, what can I do? What you can do is have a think about what you might be good at. What is what is the thing you are least shit at? If you're too negative about yourself, what is your least bad quality? And if your least bad quality is like drawing pictures, there are trans organizations that want flyers. There are shit trans cartoonists who want their cartoons to be drawn in a better way. There are trans people who are trying to start their own like internet brandy thing who want artwork. Like, I didn't do all this stuff. Kayla and Conrad did all of this amazing background because they're amazing at that kind of thing. They're actually amazing at everything to do with YouTube, and you should definitely go and subscribe to their channel because they're good at script writing and analyzing media and all that kind of stuff that I'm not good at. But they're also good at art, and someone needed to do this. So, yeah, I'm sure you're able to contribute in some way, and it will help. And what was also good about these like specific things is you don't get paralyzed by the fear. When you hear the news that maybe this state is going to take away driving licenses or something, you're like, crap, what the hell can I do for driving licenses? And you kind of redirect to that, and then the next day you read that something about nursing is, and you're like, oh, what can I do about nurses? And you're like pointers going in all these different directions. You don't really achieve anything. If you're like, well, I'm not really good at any of that, but what I am good at is writing letters to my MP in a way that might pressure them to listen. So start doing that. Write a letter every single day if you want, like, do something. Or write a template for other people and share it on an anonymous blog. It's stuff you can do.